Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to this webinar about Australia. We will give some time for people to connect, as many people are coming in right now. Welcome. We see many people more connecting. We'll give a couple of minutes before starting this webinar. Thanks for your patience. Give a couple of minutes before starting. Thank you for your patience. We'll be beginning in a minute. Still people joining, so we'll give it a minute before we launch this webinar. We see people from everywhere, so thanks for joining. Yes, and other people coming in. Welcome. Welcome to this webinar for about WEP Australia and the programs we have. I think we can start, I think, with the 3 minutes of time that we gave to the people is good enough. And if people still come in, that's fine. So first of all, again, welcome to this webinar about WEP Australia. We're very glad you are joining with us today. And before presenting you to the people who will be hosting this webinar, I'm shortly going to present myself as well. I am Lieselot. Some of you might know me from the emails that we've been exchanging. I have left on an exchange program with WEP from Belgium at the very early stage of WEP, the very beginning, the first years of WEP Belgium. And then I also worked in the office in WEP Belgium before moving to Spain, where I also worked in the office for Spain. And now I'm in charge of the partners, communication with partners at WEP International. With us is Muriel Schett, CEO from Australia. Welcome, Muriel.
Thank you, Lieselot. So hello, I'm Muriel, CEO of WEP Australia. I'm French-Australian, and I've been working in the student exchange industry in Australia for over 20 years. I joined WEP in June 2020, so pretty much at the start of COVID and our 2-year lockdown. So times have, certainly been challenging for us, but I'm happy to say that we are now fully back in operations with a team of 17 people.
Thank you. And also with us is Donna.
Yes, good morning, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm the marketing officer here at WEP Australia. I went on exchange with WEP in 2015 for a semester program to Canada and have hosted 2 students, both from Italy, with my family as well. So very passionate about student exchange and WEP Australia, and super excited that we get to talk to you and hopefully get some more students to Australia next year.
Thank you, Donna. And last but not least, Petra.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm the program manager for the Flex program. Originally, I'm from Belgium, like Lieselotte is as well. I've traveled and lived in different parts of the world. And then in early 2019, I moved to Melbourne with my family. I've had a career a little bit in lots of different industries, going from tourism, logistics, education, admissions, and marketing. And right after I graduated from uni, I went to the United States on an au pair program. I actually wanted to go on a study abroad program when I was in high school, but my dad wouldn't let me. So it became an au pair program instead. And I can honestly say up until today, it was the best year of my life. Being away from everything and everyone you know gives you self-confidence. It makes you stronger for life. So when I got the chance to join the WEP Australia team in early 2022, I was really excited because we can help other young people fulfill the same dream. So it's a dream job.
Good, thank you, Petra, as well. Before starting the presentation, and I leave the words to the three hosts, I would like to remind you that this is a webinar. We cannot see you, you cannot talk, but if you have any questions, please write them in the Q&A box that you have, and Donna will launch the questions at the very end of the presentation. So during the presentation, any questions, you leave them there, and we will handle them at the end of the presentation. As well as we will post some links, very interesting links in the chat of this webinar. So it's very important also to check that. Starting date, deadlines, the international brochure with the prices and so on will be posted in the chat. As this is a webinar, these chats links will disappear once the webinar is finished. So it's very important that you click on the links and you leave them open in your browser so you have them. Okay. Anyway, if you have any questions, you can ask it at the end. And I'll leave the word now to Muriel.
Thank you, Lieselotte.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So who is WEP Australia? I will start with a few words on our history. So World Education Programme WEP Australia was founded in 2001 by Carleen Wheeler in partnership with a WEP group in Europe. As you probably know, WEP started in Belgium in 1988, and over the last 35 years grew into an international group with offices in Belgium, France, Italy, Poland, Spain, Argentina, and Australia. WEP has been a leading organization in the industry in Australia for over 20 years, offering high school classic programs, also known as student exchange, and high school flex programs, also known as study abroad or full fee. For high school classic, we have the greatest offer on the market in the number of spots available to partners, thanks to a very healthy reciprocity balance. So for your information, in Australia, we are regulated for our reciprocity, and the balance is based on the number of students sent out versus the number of students hosted on our programs. So it is strictly monitored by our state regulators, and it must remain positive. We have experienced and worldly staff. All staff members have prior experience within the international education industry, whether students, host families, local coordinators, or employees of other organizations. WEP Australia has always set the benchmark for the level of quality and support to be provided to all stakeholders, and that's students, host families, natural parents, schools, local coordinators, and you as our partners. In 2009, WEP Australia founded the Council of Australian Student Exchange Organizations, CASEO, with the main players on the market to provide a coherent and unified voice on key issues affecting our industry.
So I'll just talk to you a little bit about Australia as a country. We're pretty friendly. We're a friendly bunch. We like to say hi to each other in the street, even if we don't know the other person. We'll have a wave or a smile or say hi. Hugs are a culturally appropriate method of greeting, which sometimes comes to the surprise of some foreigners. Even if you meet someone for the first time, it's likely that they'll go in for a hug rather than a handshake or something a bit more formal. We do speak English in Australia, but we have a lot of slang words, which can, if you don't know what some of the slang words mean, it can really kind of throw you off in conversations. So just some examples is arvo, which means afternoon, but not to be confused with avo, which is avocado, is a difference. G'day, which is a classic greeting. It means good day. Or mozzie, which is short for mosquitoes. So we often find that students might arrive with technically really good English, but they'll go home with a new vocabulary and very Australian English. We have a very beautiful country. We're very proud of the natural wonders that we have in Australia. A lot of the time, families will spend lots of time outside on weekends, hiking, camping, or really popular activities. And of course, we've got, the Great Barrier Reef in Queensland, Blue Mountains in New South Wales. Each state just has really spectacular natural wonders. Our climate is relatively nice. There is a stereotype that Australia is hot all the time in every state, which isn't necessarily true. In the south, it can get quite cold, around 10 degrees, which might not be as cold as what some of you are used to, but it does snow in some local mountains, and there are quite a few Australians who ski and snowboard. In the north, however, it is a bit more stereotypical. It's quite warm, averaging 20 to 30 degrees Celsius all year round, and the summers are quite humid and wet as well. We have quite an outdoor lifestyle. Like I said, we have really beautiful areas and a pretty good climate. So we like to make the most of that and spend lots of time outside. And of course, we have some pretty weird and wacky animals. Kangaroos, koalas, most people have heard of those. But we've also got quokkas, which is kind of like a small bear. They're a bit strange. Or a platypus, which is sort of combined between a beaver and a duck, which is they're a bit weird. We also do have lots of snakes and spiders, but please, if your students are concerned about snakes and spiders, we do have great medical, facilities. We've never had to send a student home or they've left because of our snakes and spiders. So it's definitely a bit more of a myth than anything else. So just a little bit about our schooling. Our school year starts in January and then goes through to December. So it follows the calendar year, which is kind of opposite to how things work in the Northern Hemisphere. The exact dates for each term will depend state to state. It varies a little bit. A typical school day will see students arriving at school at 8:30 in the morning, with classes then starting at 9 o'clock. Because we finish school quite early, a lot of the teenagers and students will have after school jobs or join some clubs and activities or hang out with their friends after school. For the year levels, our school goes from year 7, which starts when students are 13, to year 12, which is when they're 18. So between year 7 to 10, the students will study pretty basic subjects, maths, English, science, history, geography as well. But in year 11 and 12, that's when students can choose subjects that they have more of an interest in or align with their career goals. So English does remain a compulsory subject throughout the whole year from year 7 to year 12, but in those senior years as well, you can choose what type of English. So that could be just general English, or it could be literature, whatever else the school might offer. For uniforms, the majority of Australian high schools do require students to wear a uniform. Some of the examples are on the screen there. And most schools will have a summer uniform, which is typically a dress for girls and shorts and a shirt for male students for summer. And then in winter, they might have a skirt, tights and shirt for females, and then pants and shirts for the male students. Each school has different rules in terms of how strict their uniform is. Some schools are really strict with the policy and some are a bit more lenient, but it does really vary. For subjects, we do offer a wide range of subjects. So some of the subjects that the senior students can choose include cooking, business management, legal studies, psychology even. There's a whole range of different things that students can choose. And like Italy, for example, there's 3 different types of high school. In Australia, it's all combined into one. So someone could study a hands-on subject like woodworking, but also do psychology at the same time if they wanted to. A lot of our schools offer excursions and camps, which are optional most of the time, and they will have sort of an education background. So they might go to the zoo or to the aquarium for an excursion, and then camps are more team building. So it's usually 3 or 4 days with an external provider, but the teachers would be there as well, and they do some team building exercises. And we have formals. So formal is kind of like a prom. Typically for year 12, but there are some schools who also offer it for year 10 or 11. And basically like a prom, the students all get dressed up, they have dinner, they go dancing. It's a whole fun thing. So yeah, you can let your students know that you do have a prom or formal. So we've got a little video here to show you what school might look like for an exchange student. Marsha is currently in Australia on exchange, and we got to follow her around on a school day. So I'll just show you that video.
So welcome in our day in my life. This is my bus stop, and these are my mates that catch the bus with me at 7:45 in the morning. These brave people here. We are at school now. I'm ready to my first period of maths, and then I'll have physics, English, and learn for life today. This is lunchtime, and I want to show you one of my classes. It's really different from Italian classes because our work is more concentrated on individual work, so our tables are separated. And here I'm learning to deal with other people, working group and things like that. This is the outside of the school. We used to take our lunch from the canteen right there, or maybe we can bring something from home or whatever. It's not a really common thing in Italy to have the canteen, so I'm trying to set in here. My school day is ended, so thank you for coming with me. I hope right there is less windy than here.
Cool. So yeah, that kind of shows you what a day in life might look like for an exchange student in Australia. So here's just an example of a timetable that a student might have. So each day is a little bit different subjects at different times to kind of have a bit of variety in the week. There's a small break at the start of the day for about half an hour, and then a lunch break later on in the day, which is usually about an hour. And like what Marsha said in the video, most schools will have a canteen for students to purchase food, but most of the time students will bring food from home to have a lunch.
Okay, thank you, Donna. So let's start with our most popular program, High School Classic, our student exchange program. So in Australia, student exchange programs must be accredited by state government regulators. So registered student exchange organizations must abide by very strict guidelines on all aspects of the operations, and that's both for the inbound and the outbound programs. So most of you would know about the DOS regulations in the US. Well, our regulations here in Australia are at least as strict. So we have strict requirements for the selection and screening of host families, including interview of all family members living at home inspection, references, and criminal history checks. We also have very strict requirements for the support to be provided to our students, including support from local coordinators, 24/7 emergency number, monthly contact to be made with the student and the host family, and term reporting to be provided to partners and to the natural parents. WEP Australia has procedures in place for child protection, safeguarding, privacy, and complaints. All staff members, including our local coordinators, must attend regular training in child protection and conflict resolution. So our program portfolio, we offer 3 intakes per year. So late January, early February, early July or mid-August for our year programs only, and October. So program lengths are 1 term, 1 semester, 3 terms, or 1 year. So all program lengths are offered for the January and the July intakes. And year programs can start either in July or in August. And the starting date will be confirmed to you by WEP Australia for each individual student. So July or the August starting date, I mean, that will depend on when we receive the full application. For example, well, if we receive some documents after our application deadline of the 31st of December, we can still accept a student, but then actually the student will probably have to arrive in August. It depends as well on when the placement can be confirmed, and as well on the host families' availabilities, because some families actually are not able to host a student from July and happy to host from August. So that will actually be deciding on the date of arrival as well. Only the 3-term program can start in October, and we have very strict age requirements for that program, as students must be enrolled into term 4 of year 10. They cannot be enrolled into term 4 of year 11. So that's why actually they must be younger, or they must be less than 16 and a half years of age at arrival. So our application deadlines are quite early compared to other countries. We do understand that, but that is due to the fact that we have very strict deadlines to apply for the visa documents with our state regulators. For year students, we can offer some extension on the 31st of December deadline. But again, you know, pending actually that students would then probably start in August. And so if you have, of course, last minute applications, please contact us so we can discuss what is still required and when the student can arrive in Australia.
So just a little bit about our Australian host families. On the Classic program, they are all volunteers, so they don't get any sort of payment or reimbursement for hosting, which means that they're really after that cultural experience. They're hosting because they genuinely want to share their life with another student and to experience their different culture as well. Families in Australia are very diverse. We have a high rate of immigration to Australia, so that means a lot of our host families come from different backgrounds and traditions, and it's likely that they'll have different religious beliefs or different backgrounds compared to the exchange student. Our families as well all come from different family types. So the family could have quite young children. They could have children who have moved out, could be a retired couple, same-sex families, etc. There's a whole different range of different types of families that host and do host our exchange students. Families in Australia are quite family-oriented. So families will usually spend time with like the cousins, uncles, aunts on the weekend, catching up, really getting to like having that quality family time and spending as much time with their family as they can. For chores, most teenage Australians will have some chores at home. So this might be unpacking the dishwasher, looking after pets, keeping their room tidy, etc. It is expected that exchange students would offer to help their host family with chores or respect the chores that the host family have assigned to them. A lot of our placements are in country Australia compared to the capital cities. This is mostly because the school enrollment process is easier there, and the country towns or the people in country towns are a lot more accepting and welcoming and engaging with exchange students. Australian country folk, they have a real sense of community. They're really proud of their towns, and everyone sort of knows each other. So it's really easy for exchange students to make friends with a whole range of different people from the one town. Sport is also a really popular part of the small town culture in Australia. The town people will get behind their local cricket team or football team and really support each other through that. A common misconception that we find is that people think country placements would be quote unquote boring for exchange students. We actually find it's quite the opposite. Country towns have a lot of events. They always have agricultural festivals, music festivals. There's always a range of things going on. So it is quite the opposite. And because everyone knows each other, it's easier for students to sort of make friends with a whole range of different people. I've got a little video here as well with Masha, again, our Italian student and her host family. So I'll show you that so you can kind of get to know them a little bit better and meet her host family.
Hi, I'm Kathleen. I live in Tungama in Victoria.
I'm Masha. I'm 17 and I'll be here for a year and I'm from Italy.
So Masha's integrated really easily into the family. It's almost like she's been part of the family the whole time. Ben's her big brother. The children in Melbourne, she's only seen a couple of times, but when we get together, she's chatting away with them and enjoying their company. She's our daughter, and we're happy to have her and look after her. And it'll be very sad when we have to send her back home, actually. Hosting Masha sort of contributed to the family, like culture-wise. It was very amusing the first time she had pizza at the Tungama pub, and she looked at her pizza and she goes, "This is not pizza, this is not mozzarella." But it's interesting, the cultural differences and things like that, Our coordinator initially made sure that Masha was settling in with us. So far we haven't needed to call her, but we know that she's there.
Yeah, she's there. If we have a problem or we just have to talk about something, we talk, we have a chat, then yeah.
Awesome, enjoyable, fabulous. I recommend it to anyone.
So there we go, that's Masha and her host family. She's placed in rural Victoria, right on the border between Victoria and New South Wales. To give you an idea of our placements, this is where our students have been placed for 2022 to 23. So as you can see, a lot of the placements aren't in the capital cities. You can see Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne on the map, but most of the placements are either along the coast or more inland in smaller country towns. So that kind of shows you where your students might be placed. We are offering next year as well our optional soft landing camp. I was fortunate enough to join the students this year and it was honestly so much fun. They were all so excited to see Sydney. Most of them hadn't been to Sydney before, so that was really exciting for them. So it's 4 days and 3 nights in Sydney. We do lots of sightseeing. We get on a ferry along the Sydney Harbour. So they see the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge at once at sunset, which was absolutely beautiful. We get nice up close and personal with some Australian animals and we got to feed some kangaroos. And just the students get to really meet other exchange students who are about to do the same journey that they are. We also have some workshops that we talk about Australian culture and the program as well, and some fun activities like trivia. We did some dancing, actually. We did the Macarena one night, which was really fun. So it's a really great way for the students to just start their program off on the right foot with other students and get to know Australia before they launch in and immerse themselves. Oh yes, I have another video, the Sydney video. Let me just show you that one as well. There you go. So you got some highlights from the Sydney trip this year. Would highly recommend it if your students are interested in seeing Sydney, which I can imagine most of them are. It's really worth it. It's a great trip.
So who can apply? Applicants must be aged 15 to 17. They cannot be graduated from high school back home, and they must return to secondary schooling after the program in Australia. They must have no failing grades in maths and English and no grades falling below 60%. They must show that they are serious students with a commitment to academic performance. They must be able to function well in an English-speaking country, so in the classroom, in the host family, and within the community. And for students from Europe, we do not require an English test. We assess the level of English with the school grades and as well the English teacher recommendation. Students must also show a positive attitude and the motivation to come to Australia. We require the report of the personal interview and a detailed letter from the student and the natural parents. They must be in good physical and mental health. For example, they cannot be undergoing mental health therapy just before or, of course, while on the program. We can accept applicants with special conditions and allergies. So the detail of conditions and allergies is specified in our partner agreement and in the partner handbook as well, that which you will receive shortly. Visa requirements, a student visa is always required, like regardless of the length of the program. That allows WEP Australia actually to provide the welfare arrangements to the underage students. The application process for the visa starts once the placement is fully confirmed. And to apply for the student visa document, so we call that the AASES form with the state regulators, we must provide the details of the host family, host school, and the local coordinator appointed for the student. So the good news is that you will receive the visa document, so the full placement confirmation, by the strict deadline of 6 weeks prior to the student's scheduled arrival date. So in Australia, on our programs, there is no last minute placement, and which is allowed actually by our regulators. So you do have that guarantee. For insurance, the Overseas Student Health Cover, OSHC, is mandatory for any student visa holder in Australia. So the cover is organized by WEP Australia and invoiced to you at the time we issue the visa document. And we do actually have indicative premiums in the partner agreement as well. To give you an idea, it's about $700 for a year. And the proof of cover, of the OSHC cover, must be submitted with a student visa application. And as the OSHC is a very basic cover, it is required for the student to carry an additional insurance policy covering personal liability, travel to and from Australia, parental visits in the case of a serious medical situation, and repatriation. The cover must be organized directly by the natural parents or you as a partner organization, and the proof of cover must be sent to WEP Australia prior to the student's arrival.
Hello, now it's time to move on to the second and last part of our presentation, and we will tell you a little more about the High School Flex program. As Muriel mentioned earlier, sometimes it's also referred to as study abroad program or full fee program. One of the main differences with the classic exchange program, apart from the higher program fee, is that in the Flex program, students do get to choose which state they want to go to, and they also make a selection of a minimum of 3 preferred schools they would like to attend. Also, if students need to study specific subjects as a requirement for their school in the home country, they can mention that in the application form, and the education department and the school will do their best to make sure that request is accommodated. Most of our students will choose to go to Queensland, followed by New South Wales and South Australia, and then Tasmania. Victoria, as you can see, is not mentioned on the map due to the fact that recently they changed their payment procedures, which means that now natural parents must pay tuition and admin fees directly to the Department of Education and homestay fees directly to the school. We understand that this is not an ideal change for our partners, which is why we have chosen currently not to promote Victoria. However, we do have an agreement, and we can send students to Victoria. So if you have a student interested, please just contact us and we'll be happy to assist. As mentioned before, students get to choose the state they go to and choose a minimum of 3 preferred schools when they apply. So what WEP Australia does first is when we receive your application and all the supporting requested documents, we submit the application to the education department of the state the student has chosen. They then assess the application. They will inform us if it's complete for them or if they require further documentation. Once it's complete, they then start the process of contacting the first preferred school on the list of the application form of the preferred schools of the student. If that first school cannot offer a place, they will contact the second school and so on. It's important to know that receiving an offer from the education department will not only depend on the capacity of the school, but also whether or not they can find a suitable homestay family for the student. Therefore, I just encourage everyone, the sooner we receive the complete application and all supporting documents, the more chance your student will have to have an offer for one of the preferred schools. The general entry and requirement for the FLEX program is 2 full years of passes. The core subjects of maths, the local language, and English need to be consistently passed. An English test is not required if the student has taken a minimum of 2 years of English as a subject in the home country and has, of course, passed both years. If the student has not taken a minimum of 2 years or did not pass, then they must pass a recognized English test. So the IELTS score for year 11, for example, would have to be 5.5. The academic year, as mentioned earlier, in Australia runs from January to December. And for the FLEX program, we have 4 starting dates. So term 1 would be end of January, start of February, term 2 in April, term 3 in July, and term 4 in October. The total program fee for the FLEX program includes tuition, homestay fees, there's usually an application admin fee, there's a homestay placement fee, an airport pickup fee, which only counts for when the students arrive. There's also OSHC, so Overseas Student Health Insurance included, and then of course the WEP fee. For New South Wales, there's also an application fee, and that's the only state for which the application fee is non-refundable. When we talk about homestay, it will cover the welfare period, and the welfare period starts 1 week before the student course starts and ends 1 week after the course ends. Homestay families on the FLEX program, unlike the classic exchange program, are not volunteer families, so they do get paid to host your FLEX student. For Queensland and Victoria, it would be the school that will find a suitable homestay family for the student. For South Australia and Tasmania, it will be the education department, and New South Wales works with homestay companies that find families on their behalf. Every state has their own application deadline dates, school terms, and application documents. I believe there was a link added to the Q&A box, and I think that also includes dates, application dates, if I'm not mistaken. So we also, apart from that, have a Web Central platform that is accessible for partners who have signed an agreement with us. On the Web Central platform, you can find all the information on application forms, detailed school profiles, the fees, program dates, and other important information per state, like more information on how to book flights and all that. Of course, if there's information that you need and you cannot find it, or you have specific questions, or some students want to do specific subjects or sports, we are here to assist you to find the best school choices for your student. WEP Australia will keep you informed at all times from the moment that you send in the application till the moment your student arrives and until departure. So at any stage, you can contact us if the student or natural parents have any questions or concerns, because we have regular contact with the education department and the schools, and we inform each other. The school will inform us if there's anything with the student, and we will keep you updated. In the first week of the arrival, the school usually organizes an orientation for all their international students. And for New South Wales, the Department of Education organizes an orientation as well. Every school has an international student coordinator and international homestay coordinator, and those coordinators and the homestay family should be the first point of contact for your student if they have any questions or concerns, as they see the student on a daily basis and are best placed to assist them. However, it's important to know if there is something that the student feels they cannot discuss with the school or their homestay family, they can of course contact WEP Australia, and we will do our best to help the student. We also have a 24/7 emergency number, which was mentioned before. Before we go into every state and look at a bit closer what they offer, we're happy to inform you that as an extra bonus, we will also offer our flex students an optional Sydney mini stay if they are interested in it. That will be during the September holidays. And Donna was lucky again to accompany the group this year, so she will tell you a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I'm basically a Sydney local now.
Mhm.
No, it was great. It's same sort of thing as the orientation. We did lots of sightseeing, 4 days, 3 nights. We stayed right in the centre of the Sydney CBD, so we could walk around to the Opera House and have a look at the bridge. The students actually climbed the Sydney Harbour Bridge, which gave them views of the whole harbour. We did some whale watching as well, and we were lucky enough to see some baby whales, which was very exciting. So yeah, if you do have some flex students who are interested in seeing Sydney, then the mini stay is a really great trip for them as well.
Sounds like a fun trip.
It was. Okay, so we'll start off with New South Wales. So, of course, Sydney is the capital of New South Wales. Sydney as a city is very safe, and the towns in New South Wales are very safe as well. Everyone looks out for each other, and there's a real sense of community in New South Wales. Some of the best beaches in Australia are in New South Wales. If you've seen the show Bondi Rescue, then you will know Bondi Beach, which is in Sydney, which we do take the students to as well. All along the coast in New South Wales are just beaches with white sand and blue water. Yeah, just beautiful, beautiful part of the world. Sydney also hosted the 2000 Olympic Games. So as a result, they've got world-class venues for lots of sporting events, and they regularly host Australian football, rugby, soccer matches all throughout the year. And of course, you've got Sydney, which is the capital and has some of the best views, and yeah, just a beautiful city to be in.
And what can New South Wales offer students on the Flex program? They have 18 schools in the metropolitan area around Sydney and 9 regional schools that offer the program, and most of those schools would be in coastal locations. New South Wales does not accept year 11 enrollments for term 4, so for the October intake, as technically in New South Wales, term 4 is the start of year 12, the first term of year 12. They also do not place students in year 12. So it is possible to have a student coming in July, be placed in year 11 for 3 terms or a full academic year. So going into year 11 in the first academic year and then moving to year 12 in the next academic year. That is possible, but it's not possible to be placed directly into year 12. Students that are already graduated from high school in their home country are also not accepted. Let's move on to Queensland.
Yeah, so Queensland, which is definitely the most popular state that students choose. for good reason. It's absolutely beautiful and it's really warm, so don't blame them. Queensland, of course, has the Daintree rainforest, which is the oldest rainforest in the world, and the Great Barrier Reef, which has heaps of fish. So if your students are interested in nature, then Queensland is definitely a great option. The weather is a lot warmer in Queensland as well. So typically the mid to high 20s or low 30s Celsius all year round. They've got a big surfing culture in Queensland as well. Most of the major cities are on the coast where the waves are big enough to surf. So a lot of people will go after school or after work and go for a surf, which is pretty cool. And you've got the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast there as well. And they're both beautiful locations. The cities are right on the beach. They're both very safe and offer a very relaxed lifestyle.
Wonderful. Thank you, Donna. Education Queensland International, they offer 66 schools for the Flex program. 51 of those schools are in metropolitan areas and 15 in regional schools. Here you can see on the map a little bit more where those schools are located. So we have 12 schools in the Gold Coast area, 28 around Brisbane, 12 on the Sunshine Coast, 5 in central Queensland and the Fraser Coast, 3 in Townsville, and then 6 more schools up in Cairns. Every area will offer something different. The only thing we can mention that's important to remember is that, as Donna said, Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast are very popular destinations, also mostly for international students. So schools will fill up very quickly in those areas. Another important thing is that if you have a student that is 18 or turning 18 whilst on the program, it may be a little bit more difficult to receive an offer, especially in those popular Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast areas and also Brisbane area. And the reason is that these students would be legally adults. So some schools and homestay families are a little bit more concerned that the student would not follow the rules of the program. Ultimately, they can apply. It will be at the discretion of the principal whether they can offer a place to the student. But if you choose a destination in any of the other areas, more regional, they would be getting an offer more easily. Please note also that for year 12, there is no enrollments in term 3 and 4, so the July and October intake. And that's because local students are going into their exam period then, which wouldn't give the international student much of a study abroad experience. Queensland does accept students already graduated in their home country, but only within 6 months of graduating. If it's after six months, they will not be accepted in the program. Let's now go to South Australia, Donna.
Getting a tour. So South Australia is next on the map. The capital of South Australia is Adelaide, and Adelaide is actually the only city in the world to be completely surrounded by parks. So a great option again for students who like being outside. Because it does have a smaller population, this means that this city, the city's cost of living is lower compared to the other capital cities, and they've also got a great public transport system, so it's very easy to get around. There's lots of cultural events in Adelaide. They've got plenty of music, art, film, food festivals all year round. And Adelaide or South Australia is home to Kangaroo Island. So as the name might suggest, there are kangaroos on Kangaroo Island. So if students are eager to see kangaroos, then Adelaide and that area is a great option as well.
And any students interested to go to South Australia, the Department of Education of South Australia has 40 schools to choose for the Flex program. They're both in the metropolitan area or more regional. South Australia offers a lot of community engagement and generally has a high student satisfaction. Also here, the same as in Queensland, there are no year 12 enrollments in term 3 and term 4, as local students will be going into their exam period. Generally, South Australia will not accept students graduated from their home country. However, if the student is only 17 or just turned 18, they may consider the application, so it's still worth applying for it. Now we move on to our final and last state, Tasmania.
Yes, Tasmania, or known as Tassie in Australian slang. Tassie is a beautiful island state of Australia. It's located to the south of mainland Australia, and it is absolutely beautiful. I keep saying it, but it's true. There's lots of lakes, lots of mountains, perfect for hiking. If you have a student that is really passionate about the outdoors and about the environment, then Tasmania is the ideal option for them. They've also got the cleanest air in the world in Tassie, and it is very safe and very affordable. It's got one of the lowest crime rates in Australia, so it's very safe, particularly Hobart, which is the capital. It's also great for history lovers. There was the first colonisation of Australia in Tasmania. So if you have students who are interested in learning a bit more about Australian history, Tasmania is a perfect option.
Thank you, Donna. The Government Education and Training International, GETI, we call it, from Tasmania, has 17 schools that they offer for the Flex program. 10 of those schools are junior high schools, which means they are for students going to year 7 to year 10, and then 7 senior high schools, which is for students in year 11 and 12. So it's already unique that they have separate high schools for year 11 and 12. And another unique thing is that the students in those senior high schools do not have to wear a uniform, which for some teenagers might be a bonus. Overall, there's also a high student satisfaction, as Tasmania doesn't have the large number of international students. So when students go to Tasmania, they kind of receive a more special treatment and usually also end up having very good language development at the end of their program. Tasmania does accept students that are 18 years old and have graduated from high school in their home country. It will still be the school who decides if they will accept a student or not, but as a general rule, they can accept students graduated. They also accept students into term 3 and term 4 of year 12, as the exam period in Tasmania is only 2 weeks for the main exams. So that was a little bit about all the states for the Flex program. So that means we have come to the end of the Flex presentation. Thank you, Donna, for sharing your knowledge on all the beautiful states of Australia. We hope you found our presentation interesting, and if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box. Donna will read them out, and we will do our best to answer them. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Petra.
Thank you, all of you. So Donna will indeed now revise the questions. We got some of them, so go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, perfect. I'm just going to put the other links in the chat as well. So please have a look at the chat. There's one there, and I'll ask a question, then I'll put the third one in there as well. So we've got a question for the term program. Regarding term, is this also possible to do in July and August or October?
No, the term program, well, and that's actually both for Classic and for Flex. July, yes. August, it's not possible because the term program is the only program actually which does exactly respect the term dates in Australia. So they get the full 10 weeks of the term. So they must actually arrive at the start of the term, which would be mid-July, and it finishes actually about mid-September. So those dates actually are set. So it's not possible in October because schools would not want to enroll a student just for one term in term 4 into the last term. So it is actually only offered for July and January and the full term.
Great, thank you. Got a question about the formal/prom, which I'm happy to answer if you guys are happy with that. Yep.
Yeah.
So the question is, if there's a special semester that it is, which is great that you want to sell it, of course, it is typically in the second semester of Australian schooling. So for us, that's towards the end of the calendar year. Each school's exact formal or prom date varies. They're not all around the same time. So I'm speaking very generally here, but generally they're in the November, December period. So a student who does a semester program at the start of the year might miss out, but at the end of the year, if the student's going to be in Australia for the last couple of months, then their school would likely to have a formal then. Hope that answers your question. For the classic program, question is, no choice possible at all regarding location. Is this much cheaper than the flex program?
Well, yes, it is. Maybe actually not that much on the one-term program. You wouldn't see the difference that much, but you definitely see the difference on longer programs, or like semester, and even more so on the year program, due actually to the not only tuition fees and homestay fees, charged actually by the education providers for the flex program. So our that would be actually much higher. Petra, an idea of year program?
Yeah, I can tell you, for example, for flex, if you have a student going into year 11, 12 for Queensland, one term in January next year would be about 10,810.
Oh yeah, no. So it is actually much more expensive than
and
ours.
a full year is 37,668.
And actually the placement fees, our placement fees for the classic program, of course, are much lower than that. So like 11,500 for the year program in comparison. But yes, but the student cannot choose, indeed, yes. So it's they cannot choose a state or any location. That's entirely in any state actually where we are placing students.
Great.
Donna has also put in the chat box the link to the international brochure. You have the prices there, and if you want to have if you want to make up an agreement with WEP Australia, the fees are also stated in the agreement.
Yes.
Cool, thank you. Question about the flex placement. So for the homestay families, is it not WEP that searches and have a look at the homestay families, but the Educational Institute?
Yeah, that's correct. So WEP Australia is not involved in finding families. It will be, for most states, it's the education department. For Queensland, it's the school. New South Wales works with homestay companies who search for families. So we are updated throughout, and we approve it before we, they agree with placement, and then we inform the partner, but we do not do the search.
But please remember, this applies to flex programs. Everything which is classic, yes, WEP Australia does search the host families themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I can also add, if there are issues with the homestay family, we do get involved, and we try to convince them to find a new family, but the search itself is not done by WEP Australia for flex.
Great, thank you, Petra. Got a question about, I think, dyslexia. So how do schools work with students who have dyslexia or who might have some other special conditions like that?
We do actually. It's like for either like the classic or the flex program. I think like basically the requirement is that that the student can function in a normal class environment, that they do not require special assistance from the teachers or from the school. So if actually the special condition, dyslexia, is self-managed by the student, and said we can definitely, accept the student. Said we would definitely ask for more information from the partner, and probably from the school in the home country. But yes, again, if there is no special assistance required, we can accept a student here on the program.
Great.
Yeah, I would like to add as well, for the flex program, it's the same for any, I can't find the word right now, but like dyslexia or other conditions, as long as the student can function normally in a class environment and wouldn't get behind on school work, it is no problem. All education departments accept students who do well as other students in class, and they can have certain specific tools that they use themselves to help them, as long as it's nothing really demanding. So yeah, everyone is accepted.
Great. I just see a comment here about the chat box not working while the meeting is being recorded. So Lisa, I might leave that in your capable hands to send the link on, or we can have a look into that. So thank you
I'm
for
not
letting us
sure
know.
if everybody is commenting the same, because we usually send out things in the chat box, so it's a bit
Yeah, if someone's able
surprises
to
me.
maybe let us know that if it is working, or if it's not working for you, we can send it, but we'll monitor that one.
And we will send out a follow-up of this webinar, and we'll put the links in there as well.
Great, thanks, Lisa.
You're
So
welcome.
a few questions here. Is the presentation being recorded? Yes. How many students do you take each year as average, and where are they coming from?
On the classic, well, per year it's like it will be well, around like 200 students, I would say, at least. And they are our students are mainly from Europe, so from Western Europe, but we are actually developing like setting up like partnerships like with other countries, and we actually like as well promoting our programs to our partners in South America, and we are actually welcoming students from Mexico, Chile, and the USA, Canada as well. But yes, again, most of our students are still like from Western Europe. But we are definitely working on the mix of nationalities, yes. And we hope actually that now with all of you joining the webinar, that we'll have many more partner agreements and student nationalities for the coming year.
Thank you. And I just back on the chat. I just saw the comments, but I've changed a setting. So if you could just have a look and make sure that you can see those links now, that would be amazing. Does the students receive grades? In our country, if the students receive grades, they're eligible for the
Co-validation.
Yeah, that's the one.
All right. Yeah. So for co-validation requirements, so it's very important that you do let us know what the requirements are. For the reason that exchange students, they are guests of the school. So they cannot choose subjects. They cannot require co-validation documents or grades or whatever they need for the co-validation. So if you have students like really with strict co-validation requirements, they must actually apply for Flex. Because Classic actually it's a complete volunteer program, family volunteer families and volunteer host school. So they are, as I said, a guest of the school. They cannot make any demand in regard to co-validation.
Great.
And I can add to that. Sorry for the Flex program. So yeah, for Flex, I mentioned in the presentation, they can choose their subjects,
Yes.
and they can also mention it immediately in the application form if they are required to do certain subjects, and also if their report will need to be
Validated, yes.
Yeah, so the school will know this, and they will do their best together with the education department to make sure they can do those subjects. And usually that is not a problem. If there is one subject that might not be running because there's low demand or there's no teacher available, then the school will do everything, and they will communicate with us so we can find another subject that would work for the home country school. With regards to the convalidation process, some schools actually assist the student with this. If there is an issue with that, then they can contact WEP Australia and we will assist the student with that process.
Great, thank you. And do we receive the list of schools enrolled in the Flex program?
Yeah, the school profiles for every state is on the Web Central platform that you will have access to once you have signed an agreement with us. And yeah, if there's any specific information that you cannot find, we can send you further details. Yeah, so there is detailed information on all the schools.
Cool. If we send a student to the Classic program, are we required to accept an Australian student?
No, actually the reciprocity system I was talking to you about, that's only actually for us in Australia. And we can send students to any country in the world and welcome students from any country in the world. So it's not a direct reciprocity with any country or any partner. So it's only actually students sent out by Australia and by the Australian organization and welcomed by the Australian organization, regardless of country and partner organization.
Cool. For visas, and I think this is more so for Flex, the CAAW and the COE are also included in the High School Classic program visa documents. Is that correct?
No, on the, for the Classic program, the visa document is AASES form, which is acceptance advice for exchange students, something like that. And that is issued by our state regulator. So it's a specific visa document for the student exchange program. The student visa is still subclass 500, but the visa document is different. And you will receive the visa document, and as well, there is no separate welfare arrangements because it is included in the AASES form that WEP Australia is actually the welfare provider on the Classic program. And so you only need that document and the proof of OSHC cover, which we send to you actually with the visa document.
Great, thank you. Any idea for a price for the basic program?
Yes, so for the year program, it's 11,500 for a program starting in 2024. So that's our placement fee. And so in addition to that, the OSHC, which I said is about $700 for the year program. And
again, the prices are posted in the chat. I think now it's visible. Is it, Donna?
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes.
I've just resent it.
Yes. As well, yeah.
And we can send it out through the agreements if you want to sign one with WEP Australia.
Just about program costs, I would just like to add that so the placement fee, of course, for the Classic, like covers everything, just the OSHC on top and the additional insurance they need to take. We have as well in Australia subject levy fees. So that is not included in the placement fee, and the school uniform that they will need to purchase as well, and books. So school uniform and books, it can be actually like a few $100s, depending on the schools they're going to. Usually they get secondhand and they can, you know, like sell it again at the end. For subject levy fees, often actually partners ask for an ID. It is very hard for us to give an idea of subject levy fees because it can be anything from $300 to $1,000. And we cannot actually give you an indication of that prior to the student being placed at the school and the school confirming actually the levy fees they're applying. Knowing that levy fees are usually higher if the students take special subjects, but general actually for more mainstream subjects, you know, subject levies should stay quite reasonable. But yeah, it is important for you as well to know about those additional costs which are not included in our placement fee.
Great. And it looks like the final question, if there's anything else, please pop them in the Q&A. Is it net prices or commission based?
No, it's net prices, yeah.
Cool, looks like that's all the questions.
Thank you, all three of you. If there are no more questions, I want to thank you for assisting to this webinar. Please, if you would have any more questions, particularly about Australia, you can contact Muriel directly at this email address displayed here on this slide. If you have questions, general questions, if you want to get the newsletter, because we send out a newsletter, but the person that we have in our database, maybe it's not you specifically. If you want to receive it, you just send us an email at international@wep.org, and I will add you to the newsletter list. If you want to receive information about the other programs of WEP, whatever, you can always contact us at the WEP International Department. I want to thank you, Donna, Muriel, and Petra, for hosting this webinar. Very interesting. Thanks a lot. I hope all the attendees also not only enjoyed it, but learned a lot about the programs in Australia. And thanks again for assisting all of you. And what's more, if you have any questions, we're here to help you out. Thanks a lot, and
Thank you
see
so
you next time.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
everyone.
Bye.
Have a great
Bye,
day.
everybody.
Yeah.